November 11th, 2012. A neighbor is found with a bullet in his skull. By dawn, police name their suspect John McAfee, the millionaire who created the antivirus software on half the world's computers. When officers arrive to question him, he's gone. What happens next is unthinkable. He fakes his own death twice, bribes his way out of a Guatemalan deportation cell hours before being extradited, escapes the FBI for 18 months on a yacht, taunting them on Twitter with his exact location. Every time they close in, he vanishes. 3 countries issue warrants. Interpol joins the hunt. The US government deploys international resources to catch one man, and every single time he outsmarts them. This isn't just a fugitive story, it's a masterclass in making the most powerful nation on Earth look like amateurs. How does one person stay free that long? And what happens when he finally gets caught? 1987, Silicon Valley. John McAfee writes 12 lines of code that will make him a fortune. Personal computers are proliferating, and so is a new threat, the brain virus. The first IBM PC virus spreading through floppy disks like a digital plague. McAfee, a programmer at Lockheed, sees the panic and the opportunity. He writes a detection program in his spare time and names it Virus Scan. Within weeks, companies are calling. Within months, he quits Lockheed to sell his software full-time. McAfee Associates is born from the trunk of his car. His genius isn't just technical, it's psychological. In a 1989 interview, he warns that computer viruses will cause companies to near collapse from financial loss, amplifying public terror precisely enough to drive desperate IT managers to his product. And the strategy works. By 1990, half the Fortune 100 are paying for McAfee antivirus. Revenue hits $5 million annually, and doubles every 6 months. John McAfee becomes Silicon Valley royalty, the man who tamed the digital wilderness. But John despises the throne. Board meetings bore him. Quarterly earnings calls feel like prison. 1,000 bosses, he complains to friends, shareholders, regulators, lawyers, all demanding conformity. This is a man who got expelled from a doctoral program for sleeping with a professor's daughter, who got fired from an engineering job for arriving high on hallucinogens, who once hid behind a dumpster in a drug-induced panic. The same maverick who hosted occult ceremonies and workplace sex contests at his company's headquarters just to antagonize convention. Corporate life is suffocating him. In 1993, he cashes out, sells his shares for $100 million, and walks away from the empire bearing his name. He's 48 years old and free. For a while he drifts, yoga retreats, ultralight aircraft, books on Eastern mysticism, but nothing satisfies him. By 2008, the financial crash evaporates most of his fortune. His net worth plummets from 9 figures to $4 million. The loss either humbles him or confirms his suspicions. He decides governments and institutions are parasites designed to drain individual freedom. "I'll never let the state own my life," he tells a reporter, and he means it. In 2009, John boards a plane to Belize. No extradition treaty, no IRS, and no rules. Just turquoise water, white sand, and the promise of absolute autonomy. He buys a beachside villa on Amberus Cay, then a jungle compound near Orange Walk. He hires armed bodyguards, ex-convicts, and local muscle. He builds a makeshift lab to research herbal antibiotics, claims he's going to cure superbugs with jungle plants. He surrounds himself with teenage girlfriends, forms a compound of loyalty bound by money and fear. Locals whisper that the American millionaire is insane or dangerous, possibly both. By day, John pilots his ultralight plane over the reef. By night, he throws bonfire parties with automatic weapons displayed like party favors. He even starts a pharmaceutical company, Quorum X, to legitimize his jungle experiments. To outsiders, he's just another eccentric expat playing scientist. But something darker is fermenting. His business Paranoia, once an asset, is curdling into isolation psychosis. He picks fights with gangsters over territory. He butts heads with neighbors over noise. But Belize, he will learn too late, is not a place where foreigners write their own laws, and the fuse is already lit. But before the explosion, what turns a millionaire tech genius into a jungle warlord? And why would a man who built his career on protection end up accused of the opposite? Speaking of protection, McAfee understood something most of us ignore. Your digital life is constantly being watched. Every search, every click, tracked and logged. That's where today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN, comes in. Look, I spend hours researching stories like this one, digging through international databases, accessing geo-blocked sources. Without a VPN, my ISP sees everything. Websites track my location, and honestly researching fugitives and government operations. That's the kind of browsing history you want encrypted. Surfshark masks your IP address, encrypts your connection, and lets you access content from anywhere in the world. Whether you're streaming and want to unlock geo-restricted libraries from other countries, researching sensitive topics, or need Surfshark Alert to monitor if your personal data has been leaked in a breach, it's essential right now. Go to Surfshark. Because if McAfee taught us anything, it's that privacy isn't paranoia anymore, it's survival. April 30th, 2012, the gang suppression unit hits McAfee's compound with military precision without any warrant shown. Officers in tactical gear storm the property, lining up McAfee, his girlfriend, and his staff against a wall at gunpoint. His dogs, 4 massive mastiffs bred for aggression, charge the intruders. An officer shouts a warning. One dog lunges, growling. A shotgun blast drops the animal mid-stride. "You killed my ___ dog," McAfee screams, eyes wild. The officers pin him face down in the dirt. They loot every structure for 6 hours, overturn lab equipment, confiscate rifles and pistols, seize bottles of chemicals McAfee claims are antibiotic compounds. At the end of the raid, 0 drugs are recovered. The only charge is possessing an unlicensed firearm, a paperwork misdemeanor. They haul him to Belize City anyway, throw him in the piss house, the Belize Central Prison's holding tank, named for the open sewer that runs through it. McAfee spends one night there bribing a guard with a $100 bill for a single cigarette, using a garbage bag as a belt because they confiscated his. He's released the next morning without charges. But the damage is done, a switch flips. John decides the government wants him dead. Is he paranoid? Maybe. Is he wrong? That's harder to answer. After the raid, he sleeps with a Glock under his pillow. He installs tripwires and cameras around the compound. He starts babbling to visitors about assassination plots, about cartels and corrupt police working together. Belize's prime minister will later call him extremely paranoid, even bonkers. John wears it as a compliment, because only the paranoid survive. Meanwhile, 50 yards away on Amber's Cay, quieter conflict escalates. Gregory Fall, a 52-year-old expat from Florida, moved to Belize for silence and sunshine. Instead, he got John McAfee as a neighbor. McAfee's 9 dogs roam the beach freely, barking through the night, occasionally biting tourists. Fall files complaints with the mayor, noise violations and dangerous animals complaints. He confronts McAfee directly, "Control your dogs or I'll take care of them myself." John refuses. He needs the dogs for security. The feud simmers for weeks. Then on November 9, 2012, something breaks. That night, McAfee's dogs start foaming at the mouth. One by one, 4 animals collapse, convulsing. By dawn they're dead, poisoned. John is devastated, then enraged. He orders his staff to shoot the dying dogs to end their suffering. He grabs his pistol and paces the compound, seething. Someone sent a message. Maybe the cartels. Maybe that gringo neighbor who threatened them. 24 hours later, November 10, 2012, a single gunshot cracks the night air on Amber's Cay. Neighbors hear it, dismiss it as firecrackers or a car backfiring. The next morning, Sunday, November 11th, a housekeeper finds Gregory Fall face up on his villa floor in a pool of blood. A 9mm round, through the back of his head, execution style. His laptop and cell phone are missing. The island freezes in shock, an American murdered in paradise. Belize police immediately attempt to question Fall's volatile neighbor. When officers arrive at McAfee's compound around noon, they find the gate open and the house abandoned. John saw them coming. He grabbed his girlfriend Samantha and vanished into the jungle. By the time officers knock on his door, he's already underground, literally buried in sand, as the opening scene showed. The man who once protected millions of computers is now the prime suspect in a homicide, and he's just declared war on an entire government. What did John McAfee know about Gregory Fall's death, and how does a 70-year-old millionaire disappear in a country the size of Massachusetts? John doesn't run blind. He's been planning this for months. He's been mapping safe houses and cultivating contacts, people who can't be followed, he whispers to a journalist later. Within 6 hours of going underground, he and Samantha are moving through a network of hideouts in the Belizean interior, abandoned warehouses, sympathetic locals' homes, a fishing shack on a mangrove river. Police and soldiers sweep the district with dogs and helicopters. They set up roadblocks on every highway. They raid houses of anyone connected to McAfee. But John stays a ghost. If you're enjoying this story, smash that like button. It tells me you want more deep dives into people who outsmarted the system. And subscribe because next week we're covering someone who makes McAfee look tame. On day 3, holed up in a concrete bunker while police search 200 yards away, John finds an old TV and tunes into Swiss Family Robinson, the 1960 film about castaways building a life on a deserted island. He sits there eating canned beans, watching the Robinson family construct a bamboo fortress, and laughs at the parallel. Maybe I should build a treehouse, he jokes to Samantha. In reality, every hour he stays in Belize reduces his odds of freedom. The GSU is closing in, informants are talking, borders are locked down, and he needs an exit. November 14, 2012, 3 days post-murder. Under cover of darkness, McAfee boards a small fishing boat on Belize's southern coast. He pays the captain $2,000 in cash for an illegal crossing into Guatemala. No passport stamp, no records. The boat cuts its engine a mile offshore and drifts into Guatemalan waters. At 3 a.m., they land at a deserted beach near Puerto Barrios. John and Samantha wait ashore and disappear into the jungle. By sunrise, they're in Guatemala City, checking into the Villa Royale Hotel under fake names. For the first time in 72 hours, John exhales. He's escaped Belize, but he can't resist the spotlight. With Fall's murder dominating international headlines, John decides to control the narrative. He contacts Vice magazine through encrypted email, offering exclusive access to the world's most wanted antivirus mogul. The Vice editor and a photographer fly to Guatemala, locate McAfee, and spend 2 days with him. John grins through a scraggly beard, arm around the journalist's shoulder. They post photos and a triumphant blog update. We've made it to safety. The article goes viral, and John feels invincible, but he is not. He just made the biggest error he can make. Within hours of posting, a hacker tweets, "John, I found you. Check your photos EXIF data." The picture Vice published contains GPS metadata, exact coordinates of the hotel. Every intelligence agency and police force on the planet now knows where McAfee is. His media stunt just turned into a catastrophic blunder. December 5, 2012, 24 days after Fall's murder, Guatemalan police stormed the Villa Royale Hotel. McAfee is in the lobby, talking to his lawyers, when officers surround him. No Samoda. Handcuffs snap on, and cameras flash. Guatemalan authorities parade their infamous catch before the world press. The charge is illegal entry, and the consequence is deportation to Belize within 48 hours. For John, Belize is a death sentence. He's convinced the moment he's handed over, he'll vanish into a cell or a shallow grave. The clock is ticking. December 6, 2012, 1 day after his arrest. Locked in a detention cell, McAfee collapses to the floor, clutching his chest. "Mi corazón," he gasps, turning pale. Guards panic. An ambulance rushes him to a Guatemala City hospital. News breaks worldwide. John McAfee has suffered 2 heart attacks in custody. The Guatemalan government, terrified of an international incident, pauses the deportation. Reporters swarm the hospital. John lies on a gurney with oxygen tubes, grimacing dramatically for the cameras. 48 hours later, doctors announce he's stable. No heart damage detected. Slightly elevated blood pressure, nothing more. John smirks at the press. "Of course I didn't have a heart attack." He later admits he faked it, hyperventilated, and held his breath to spike his blood pressure readings. Sold the performance with Academy Award conviction. The stunt bought his lawyers time to file emergency appeals, gum up the bureaucracy, and in that chaos, Guatemala's government takes the path of least resistance. They deport John McAfee, not to Belize, but to the United States. A legal quirk. He entered Guatemala illegally from Belize, so they can technically repatriate him to his country of origin. John just checkmated an entire nation. December 12, 2012, Miami International Airport. John McAfee walks off the plane, disheveled, unshaven, and victorious. He's just outfoxed a two-country manhunt, faked a medical emergency, and turned a guaranteed capture into a free ticket home. Federal agents question him briefly, but with no US charges pending, they release him. John strolls out into the Florida sunshine, flashing a grin to the cameras. It's good to be home. He's eluded the jaws of Belize. The question is, for how long? How does a fugitive become a celebrity? And what happens when the country you thought was safe turns out to be hunting you too? January 2013. Portland, Oregon. John McAfee marries Janice, a former Miami prostitute, 30 years his junior, whom he met on his first night back in the States. They settle into a rented condo. John tries domesticity, coffee in the mornings, walks in the park, Netflix at night. The experiment lasts 4 months. He's bored senseless. By summer he's back to provocation. He produces a viral YouTube video, How to Uninstall McAfee Antivirus. A surreal dark comedy, featuring John surrounded by guns and women snorting bath salts while mocking the software that still bears his name. The video racks up millions of views. Next he announces a presidential run in 2016, under the newly created Cyber Party. The campaign platform is crazy. Legalize drugs, abolish the IRS, encrypt everything. He polls at 0%, but generates headlines. John McAfee isn't living, he's performing. By 2018, he's found his next act, cryptocurrency evangelist. Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins. John declares them the future and himself their prophet. I'm not going to lie, seeing this from 2025, he was at least a bit true. I hope every one of you got some bitcoins following his advice. He lives on a 75-foot yacht, equipped with satellite internet, an armory of firearms, and Janice's first mate. Why a yacht? Because he knows what's coming. John hasn't filed a tax return since 2010, hasn't paid $1 to the IRS in 8 years. Taxation is theft, he tells interviewers, smirking. The IRS is a criminal organization, he says. But the IRS unsurprisingly disagrees. January 2019, a federal grand jury in Tennessee secretly indicts McAfee on 8 counts of tax evasion, failure to file returns, willful evasion, which means potential decades in prison. A source tips John off. Rather than surrender, he fires up his yacht's engines and disappears into the Caribbean. He tweets a photo of himself on deck, rifle in hand. Today I left the US. I'm freer than ever. What follows is an 18-month maritime game of cat and mouse unmatched in modern fugitive history. McAfee country hops by sea, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, possibly Venezuela. Every few days, a new harbor. Every few days, a new taunting tweet. He's living on cash and cryptocurrency using encrypted phones and VPNs to mask his location. He claims he employs body doubles and disguises. He posts photos with lookalikes, jokes that even seeing him doesn't mean you've seen him. Is it paranoia, or is it true? When your passport is flagged, every airport is a trap, every border crossing a gamble. John avoids commercial flights entirely. One passport scan, and he's finished. Instead he relies on constant motion and constant publicity as twin shields. In a paradox, his fame protects him. Governments prefer quiet arrests, but John makes that impossible by broadcasting his location, or decoy locations, to 2 million followers. He gives live interviews from undisclosed rooms, dares the IRS to come find me. He tweets a photo supposedly from Norway, wearing a thong as a face mask, and claims Norwegian police arrested him for it. But it is a prank. Authorities chase phantoms. July 24, 2019. Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. McAfee's yacht docks for refueling. Local authorities, tipped by Interpol alerts, swarm the pier. They board the vessel and detain John, Janice, and crew on suspicion of illegal firearms in his possession. 4 shotguns, 3 handguns, enough ammunition to outfit a small militia. After all, he's caught. But after 4 days of negotiations, and likely some cash changing hands, the Dominican Republic releases him without charges. They want no part in this circus. John raises a glass of rum as the yacht pulls away. Even when I'm arrested, I walk free. But the net tightens. By late 2019, McAfee relocates to Eastern Europe. He posts cryptic videos from safe houses. I've collected files on corruption in governments worldwide. If I go down, they all go down with me. Bluff or threat, insurance or delusion, it doesn't matter.
In October 2020, perhaps limited by CO travel restrictions, perhaps simply exhausted, John does something uncharacteristic. He stops running. He and Janice rent an apartment near Barcelona, Spain. He ventures out rarely. On October 5, 2020, he heads to Barcelona's El Prat airport, reportedly bound for Istanbul. At check-in, a passport scan flags his name. Within minutes, Spanish police surround him. After years of high-seas evasion, after outsmarting police in 3 countries, John McAfee is arrested at the request of the US Department of Justice. The game is over, or is it? And what does a man who vowed never to be caged do when the cage finally locks? June 23, 2021. Brian's 2 prison, Barcelona. John McAfee, 75 years old, sits in a concrete cell, awaiting extradition to the United States. He's been locked up for 8 months. No guns, no gadgets, no Twitter on demand, just walls and time. Through his lawyers, he manages sporadic tweets. In one, he writes, "I'm content here. I have friends, but know that if I hang myself, a la Epstein, it will be no fault of mine." The reference is unmistakable. Jeffrey Epstein, the financier found dead in a federal cell under suspicious circumstances. By the way, you want a video of him? Let me know in the comments. John's followers take note. He'd even gotten a tattoo months earlier, $WACD, claiming he'd been warned of a plot against him. To the public, he insists he will not commit suicide. To the Spanish court, he insists the charges are politically motivated, that he's a dissident being persecuted for speaking against government overreach. The court is unmoved. US prosecutors work through diplomatic channels, building their case. The charges are severe. 8 counts of tax evasion, millions owed, potential life sentence given his age. Separate fraud charges allege he manipulated cryptocurrency prices through pump and dump schemes, defrauding investors. McAfee knows if extradited, he'll die in an American prison. He tells a confidant he will not permit that fate. Still, in messages to Janice, he remains defiant. "I have no fear of what's coming," and perhaps he believes it. On June 23, 2021, 100 p.m., the Spanish National Court signs John McAfee's extradition order. Within the hour, a court officer delivers the news to Brian's 2. John is informed he'll be transferred to US custody imminently, possibly within days. He calls Janice. "I love you, I'll call you this evening," but there is no evening call. At approximately 7 p.m. Guards conducting a routine check find John McAfee hanging from a bedsheet in his cell. Paramedics arrive within minutes. They pronounce him dead at 7:23 p.m. The official cause is suicide by hanging. He was 75 years old, caught at last, but never tried. But you thought this ends here? No way, not for his supporters. Janice publicly insists John was not suicidal, that he was upbeat in their last conversation, that the timing, hours after the extradition order, is too convenient. Spanish authorities conduct an autopsy. Toxicology shows no drugs. Cause of death confirmed. Asphyxiation consistent with hanging. The investigation rules it suicide. But conspiracy theories flood the internet. Did John have files on powerful people? Was he silenced? Or did he orchestrate one final trick, fake his death, escape into legend? The most tragic possibility. The man who vowed never to yield simply made the only exit left on his terms. John McAfee's body remained in a Spanish morgue for months, while legal battles over his estate unfolded. Even in death, his story resisted closure. Here was a man who built an empire on fear, who turned paranoia into profit, who fought the law for a decade and mostly won. He lived as a digital age outlaw, hopping borders and thumbing his nose at governments, transforming his life into performance art. He once said, in a rare quiet moment, "It's better to live one day as a lion than 1,000 years as a lamb." And if you think John McAfee's story is wild, you haven't seen anything yet. Check out my previous video, The Man Who Outsmarted the NSA, where we dive into another fugitive who made the feds look like amateurs. Click it now.